This is the story of a year in the life of the ninth, and probably the most memorable so far. The year is 1969, the year parents, scouters and lads joined together to build our new headquarters. The story actually starts a year or two earlier, when we arrived at the old scout hut to find a notice to quit pinned to the door. Bexley Council required the site for the new Lammerby School. Discussions with the council followed, and eventually we were offered a first-class site, adjoining the glade, looking across a cricket field to Lammerby Park, and only a stone's throw from the old HQ. There remained only one problem: a new building. Despite a generous government grant and frantic fund drawing, a new HQ was out of the question, unless we built it ourselves, and this we decided to do. Plenty of optimism, some misgivings. The site was cleared in the autumn of 1968. We're sure we dug out the biggest roots in sidcup, and contractors then laid a base. And then in January it arrived, about 8 a.m. on a Saturday morning, a lorry full of sections of timber, metal girders, cedar cladding, which we were assured would fit together into a cedar cabin. A little disbelievingly, under the leadership of Don Banyard, we fitted section to section, and it started going up. Luckily, Don Banyard had plenty of experience. His sledgehammer always hit the right place. The rest of us were keen enough. Many people worked so hard for years. Wimpies had nothing on us. The framework itself was erected in 3 weekends, and then came the snow. It looked pretty enough, but we wanted to get on. Then the Felters let us down, so it wasn't until the end of March that we were off again. Then came the real slog. Weekend after weekend, Dads came down to saw and hammer and fix plasterboard, mix concrete, wire, plumb, hang doors, etc., etc. forgotten was decorating the front room. Roses remained unpruned, and the grass grew high. 1969 wasn't all building. The pack and troop continued to meet at the sidcup Education Centre in Victoria Road, and the venture unit decided to have a stroll across the Yorkshire moors. A 50-mile stroll, in fact, from Osmotherley to Ravenscar, the Lyke-Wake Walk. Off they go, full of enthusiasm. Is it worth it? How much further? The welcome food kitchen. The end. We've done it. Oh, my poor feet. First aid is needed. By September, much of the work had been completed, but there was still plenty to do, and everyone was feeling the strain. It was then decided that we would announce a completion date, plan the opening, and make sure it was complete come hell or high water. If we had worked hard during those previous 9 months, it was nothing compared to these 6 weeks. Lighting was installed, paths were laid, paint was brushed and rolled, ceilings and walls were papered, and the flooring tiles were being laid 48 hours before the opening. But a miracle happened when the cabin was due to be reopened on the 22nd of November. It was ready. The water is running. Better check the plumbing works. But just make sure. The lads are all spick and span, ready for the opening. filled to capacity, the flag was broken and the DC declares the Glade cabin open. A simple plaque was unveiled. The Group Scout leader thanks everyone who has made the cabin possible. Presents a thanks badge to Group Chairman Harold Hodges, our architect, clerk of works and site foreman. He was presented a gas lighter. Mrs. Hodges received a bouquet, compensation for the many lonely weekends deserted by her husband. The formalities completed, district scouters, troop scouters, parents and boys walk around, have a cuppa, generally contented with the year's work.
At last the scouts were let loose in their new headquarters, and to celebrate, the tuck shop was free. After the ball games, a chance to try out one's Kim's game, and then to finish off the evening, inter-patrol competition. bearing in mind that now on our new floor we must wear soft shoes or take off our walking boots. The following week, our younger brothers had moved in, and here you can see the lads learning a bit of wound dressing. First aid plays a very important part in the scout career. Cubs are learnt and taught it at the very early ages, and then later on scouts put it into practice out in the wilds. Knotting is also a popular pastime, and as you can see here, a number of badges which we try and acquired as a cub. So the cub pack draws to an end, and the meeting is finished. But this is just one of many that will follow.